Ada swept through the glass doors of Crown Tower like she owned the building. Her black heels clicked sharply against the marble floor. She held her phone tight against her ear, talking loudly about the big presentation she had prepared for the afternoon. People in the lobby turned to look at her. Some admired her expensive navy blue dress. Others noticed her designer handbag. Ada loved the attention. She worked as a senior marketing executive on the 12th floor. Everyone knew her name. Everyone knew she came from a wealthy family. Her father owned 3 hotels in Lagos. Her mother was friends with government officials. Ada had studied at a university in London. She always made sure people remembered these things about her. "Yes, Mr. Johnson," she said into her phone, walking faster. "The presentation is perfect. The client will sign the contract today. I guarantee it." She did not see the man with the mop and bucket near the elevator. His name was Tund. He wore a simple gray uniform with the word cleaning staff printed on the back. He was on his knees, wiping water from the floor where someone had spilled their morning coffee. The floor was slippery and dangerous. Tund worked carefully to make it safe for people walking by. Ada was still talking on her phone when she rushed past the elevator area. She was not watching where she was going. Tund stood up at exactly the wrong moment, holding his wet mop. His bucket was right behind him. Ada walked straight into the mop handle. The force knocked the mop from his hands. Dirty water splashed everywhere. It hit Ada's dress, her shoes, and even her handbag. "What?" Ada screamed. She looked down at her ruined dress. Brown water dripped down the front. Her phone fell from her hand and clattered on the floor. "You stupid fool. Look what you have done." Tund quickly bent down to pick up his mop. "I am very sorry, madam," he said quietly. His voice was calm and respectful. "Please, it was an accident. Let me help you clean." "Help me?" Ada's voice grew louder. More people stopped to watch. Workers from different offices came out to see what was happening. Security guards looked over from their desk. "You have destroyed my dress. This dress cost more money than you earn in 3 months." Tund stood still. He looked at her with sad eyes but said nothing more. He knew anything he said would only make her angrier. "Do you know who I am?" Ada shouted. She pointed her finger at his face. "I am Ada Okonkwo. My father owns hotels. I studied in London. And you are just a cleaner. You are nothing. You should watch where you are going. You should be more careful. People like you should not even be working in a building like this." Some people in the crowd whispered to each other. A few shook their heads. Others pulled out their phones and started recording. But no one said anything to defend Tund. No one told Ada to stop. They all just watched. Tund's supervisor, Mr. Bello, rushed over from the security desk. He was an older man who had worked in the building for 15 years. "Madam Ada, please," he said, trying to calm her down. "I am sure Tund did not mean to. I do not care what he meant." Ada interrupted. Her face was red with anger. "He is careless. He is useless. Someone like this should be fired." Mr. Bello looked worried. He turned to Tund. "Apologize again," he whispered urgently. Tund nodded. He looked directly at Ada. "Madam, I am truly sorry. It was my fault. Please forgive me. I will be more careful." But his apology only seemed to make Ada angrier. She felt embarrassed that everyone was watching. She felt embarrassed that her expensive dress was ruined. She felt embarrassed that a cleaner had made her look foolish. All these feelings mixed together inside her and turned into rage. Without thinking, Ada raised her right hand high in the air. Then she swung it down hard. The sound of her palm hitting Tund's face echoed through the lobby. Slap. Everyone gasped. Some people covered their mouths. The security guard stood frozen in shock. Tund's head turned from the force of the slap. A red mark appeared on his left cheek. His eyes watered, but he did not cry. He did not raise his hand to touch his face. He just stood there looking at the ground. "That is what people like you deserve," Ada said coldly. Her voice was quieter now, but her words cut like a knife. "Maybe that will teach you to respect your superiors. Maybe that will teach you to do your job properly." The lobby was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They all stared at Tund, waiting to see what he would do. Would he shout back? Would he cry? Would he fight? But Tund did none of these things. He simply took a deep breath. He picked up his mop and his bucket. He looked at Ada one more time with those same sad eyes. Then he said very softly, "I am sorry for your trouble, madam. May God bless you." He turned and walked slowly toward the storage room where the cleaners kept their supplies. Ada watched him walk away. She felt satisfied. She felt powerful. She had put him in his place. She bent down and picked up her phone from the floor. Thankfully it was not broken. She wiped it with her hand and looked around at all the people staring at her. "What are you all looking at?" she snapped. "Do you not have work to do? Move along." The crowd slowly broke apart. People walked away, still whispering among themselves. Some shook their heads in disapproval. Others said Ada was right to be angry about her dress. The security guards returned to their desk. Mr. Bello hurried after Tun to check if he was okay. Ada straightened her shoulders and walked to the elevator. She pressed the button and waited. When the doors opened, she stepped inside and pressed the button for the 12th floor. As the elevator rose, she looked at her reflection in the shiny metal doors. Her dress was still wet and stained. She would have to go home and change before the big presentation. But something bothered her. Something she could not name. It was the way Tund had looked at her. The way he had stayed calm. The way he had blessed her even after she hit him. She shook her head and pushed the thought away. He was just a cleaner, she told herself. Why should she care what he thought? 3 months passed like a bad dream. Ada sat in her apartment staring at her laptop screen. The news websites all showed the same story. Her company, the place where she had worked for 5 years, was finished. The CEO had been arrested. The police had found out he was stealing money from clients. Millions of naira were missing. The company was closing down. Everyone was losing their jobs. Ada's phone rang for the 100th time that week. She looked at the screen. It was her mother calling again. Ada did not want to answer, but she knew she had to. Her mother needed to talk about their family problems. "Hello, Mama," Ada said quietly. "Ada, your father just came back from the bank." Her mother's voice shook as she spoke. "They are taking the hotels. All 3 of them. The bank says we owe too much money. Your father's business partners cheated him. They ran away with everything. We have nothing left." Ada closed her eyes. She had heard this story several times already, but each time it hurt just as much. Her father had trusted the wrong people. They had convinced him to invest in a big property deal. He had put all his money into it. He had even borrowed money from the bank using the hotels as security. But the deal was fake. The partners disappeared with the money. Now the bank wanted the hotels to pay back the loans. "What will we do?" Ada whispered. "I do not know," her mother said, and then she started crying. Ada listened to her mother cry for a long time. There was nothing she could say to make things better. After the phone call ended, Ada looked around her apartment. It was a beautiful place in a nice area of Lagos. Large windows, modern furniture, expensive decorations. But she could not afford it anymore. Without her job, she could not pay the rent. The landlord had already sent her 3 warning letters. She had 2 weeks to move out. Her savings account was almost empty. She had always spent money freely, buying designer clothes, eating at expensive restaurants, going to parties. She never thought she would need to save for hard times. Now she wished she had been more careful. Ada opened her laptop and went to a job search website. She had been searching for work every day for the past month. At first, she had only applied for senior positions at big companies. Executive roles. Management positions. Jobs that matched her experience and education. But none of them called her back. The scandal at her old company had made the news everywhere. Other companies were afraid to hire anyone connected to it. Her reputation was damaged. She scrolled through the job listings, feeling more desperate with each page. Finally, she saw something new. A small tech startup company was looking for a receptionist. The salary was low. Very low. It was less than half what she used to earn. But it was a job. It was money. It was something. Ada read the job description carefully. Answer phones. Greet visitors. Handle mail. Schedule appointments. Simple tasks. Tasks that someone with her education and experience should not have to do. But she had no choice. She clicked the apply button and sent her resume. 2 days later, her phone rang. An unknown number appeared on the screen. Ada answered quickly, hoping it was good news. "Hello, is this Ada Okonkwo?" a young woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Ada. My name is Grace. I am calling from Bright Future Technologies. You applied for the receptionist position. Can you come for an interview tomorrow at 10 in the morning?" Ada's heart jumped with hope. Yes, I can come. Thank you so much." Grace gave her the address. It was in a different part of Lagos, not the fancy business district where her old office had been. Ada wrote down the address carefully. After the call ended, she sat on her sofa and let out a long breath. An interview. It was just an interview, but it felt like a lifeline. The next morning, Ada woke up early. She looked through her closet, trying to find something appropriate to wear. All her clothes were too expensive, too flashy. She finally chose a simple black dress, one of the few modest outfits she owned. She did her makeup lightly. She wanted to look professional but not arrogant. She took a taxi to the address Grace had given her. When she arrived, Ada looked at the building with surprise. It was small. Just 3 floors. The outside needed fresh paint. There was no fancy lobby, no security desk, no marble floors. Just a simple door with a sign that said Bright Future Technologies. Ada walked inside. The reception area was tiny but clean. A young woman sat behind a desk. She looked up and smiled. "Good morning. You must be Ada," the young woman said warmly. "I am Grace. We spoke on the phone." "Good morning," Ada replied. She tried to smile but it felt strange. She was not used to being the one looking for approval. Grace stood up. "Please follow me. Mrs. Obi will interview you. She is our HR manager." They walked down a narrow hallway. Ada noticed the office was busy. People were working at computers. Some were talking on phones. Others were having meetings in small rooms. Everyone looked focused and serious. The office might be small but the people seemed dedicated. Grace knocked on a door and opened it. "Mrs. Obi, Ada is here for the interview." Ada walked into the small office. Mrs. Obi was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and short gray hair. She stood up and shook Ada's hand. "Please sit down," Mrs. Obi said. She looked at some papers on her desk. "I have read your resume. You have very impressive qualifications. University degree from London. 5 years of experience in marketing. But you are applying for a receptionist position. Why?" Ada had prepared for this question, but it was still hard to answer. She took a breath. "I lost my job when my company closed. My family has also faced financial difficulties. I need work and I am willing to start from any position. I will work hard. I will learn. I promise to do my best." Her voice almost broke when she said the words. A few months ago, she would never have imagined herself saying such things. But life had changed. She had changed. Mrs. Obi studied her face for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty. The job is not easy. You will have many responsibilities. The pay is modest. Can you accept that?" "Yes," Ada said without hesitation. "I can accept it." Mrs. Obi smiled. "Good. I think you deserve a second chance. Everyone deserves that. You can start on Monday. Welcome to Bright Future Technologies." Monday morning arrived too quickly. Ada woke up before sunrise, her stomach tight with nervousness. She put on the same simple black dress she had worn to the interview. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her face looked tired. She had not been sleeping well these past months. But today was a new beginning. She needed to make a good impression. The taxi dropped her off at the small building at exactly 8 o'clock. Grace was already at the reception desk, setting up for the day. "Good morning, Ada," Grace said cheerfully. "Welcome to your first day. Let me show you around properly." Grace took Ada on a tour of the office. She showed her where the supplies were kept, how to use the phone system, where the meeting rooms were located. The office was much smaller than her previous workplace, but everything was organized and clean. People greeted her warmly as they passed by. It felt different from the cold, competitive atmosphere at her old company. "Now, every Monday morning we have a staff meeting," Grace explained. "Everyone gathers in the main conference room. The CEO likes to start each week by talking to the whole team. He is very involved in the company. You will meet him today." Ada nodded. She was curious about the CEO. Mrs. Obi had mentioned him during the interview, saying he was young and hardworking. He had built this company from nothing just 2 years ago. At 9 o'clock, Grace led Ada to the conference room. About 30 employees were already seated around a large table and in chairs along the walls. Ada found an empty seat near the back. She felt out of place among all these people who knew each other well. The room fell quiet as someone entered. Ada was looking down at her hands, feeling nervous. Then she heard a voice that made her freeze. "Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a restful weekend." That voice. She knew that voice. Her head snapped up and her eyes went wide with shock. Standing at the front of the room, wearing a sharp gray suit and holding a tablet, was Tund, the cleaner. The man she had slapped 3 months ago. But he looked completely different now. He stood tall and confident. His hair was neatly cut. He wore expensive glasses. He smiled as he spoke to the team, and everyone listened to him with respect and attention. Ada felt like she could not breathe. Her hands started shaking. She wanted to run out of the room, but her legs would not move. She just sat there, frozen in her chair, staring at him in disbelief. "Before we discuss this week's projects, I want to introduce our new team member, Tund said. His eyes scanned the room. Then they landed on Ada. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Ada saw recognition flash across his face, but his expression did not change. He did not look angry. He did not look surprised. He just looked calm. This is Ada. She will be working at the reception desk. Please make her feel welcome. He nodded at her once, then turned his attention back to the rest of the team. Now, let us talk about the Johnson project. Sarah, can you give us an update? The meeting continued for another hour. Tund discussed various projects, asked questions, gave suggestions. He was articulate and intelligent. He knew every detail of the business. People respected him. When he spoke, everyone listened carefully. This was not the quiet man in the gray uniform who had cleaned floors. This was a leader. A businessman. CEO. Ada barely heard anything that was said during the meeting. Her mind was spinning with confusion and shame. How was this possible? How could the cleaner be the CEO of this company? It did not make sense. When the meeting ended, people filed out of the conference room, chatting among themselves. Ada stood up on shaky legs. She wanted to leave quickly, but Grace caught her arm. Come, let me introduce you properly to Mr. Tund, Grace said, pulling her toward the front of the room. No, please, Ada started to say, but it was too late. They were already standing in front of him. Mr. Tund, this is Ada, our new receptionist, Grace said brightly. Tund looked at Ada. His expression was professional and polite. He extended his hand. Welcome to Bright Future Technologies, Ada. I hope you will be happy working here. Ada's hand trembled as she shook his. His grip was firm but not aggressive. Thank you, sir, she managed to whisper. If you need anything, my door is always open, he said. Then he turned to Grace. Please make sure Ada has everything she needs to get started. He nodded to them both and walked out of the conference room. Ada stood there, unable to move. Grace looked at her with concern. Are you all right? You look very pale. I am fine, Ada lied. Just nervous about the new job. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Grace taught Ada how to handle incoming calls and manage the visitor log. But Ada could barely concentrate. Her mind kept going back to that moment in the lobby 3 months ago. The slap. The insults. The way she had treated him like he was worthless. During lunch break, Ada sat alone in a small kitchen area. She could not eat. Her stomach felt sick. Grace came in and sat down beside her. You seem very quiet today, Grace said gently. Is everything okay? Ada wanted to tell someone. She needed to talk. Grace, can I ask you something about Mr. Tund? Of course. What do you want to know? How did he become the CEO? He seems so young. Grace smiled. Oh, Mr. Tund has an interesting story. His father owned a big manufacturing company. Before his father died 2 years ago, he gave Tund a final test. He told Tund to work as a cleaner in a big office building for 1 year. He had to live on a cleaner's salary. He had to experience what it was like to be treated as an ordinary worker. Ada's mouth went dry. Why would his father make him do that? Mr. Tund's father wanted him to understand that every person has dignity and value, no matter what job they do. He wanted Tund to learn humility before giving him the family business. After Tund completed the year, he inherited his father's company. But instead of just running that business, he sold some of his shares and started this tech company. He wanted to build something of his own. Grace took a sip of her tea and continued. He is a very good boss. He treats everyone with respect. He never forgets where he came from. Some of the staff know about his story and we all admire him for it. Ada felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them back quickly. When did he finish working as a cleaner? About 18 months ago, I think. Why do you ask? 18 months ago. That meant he had been working as a cleaner at Crown Tower during the time Ada worked there. He had been in the middle of his father's test. And she had humiliated him. She had slapped him in front of everyone. She had called him worthless. 6 months passed slowly. Every morning, Ada arrived at the office early. She made sure the reception area was spotless before anyone else arrived. She answered every phone call politely. She greeted every visitor with a genuine smile. She organized files, scheduled meetings, and handled complaints with patience. She worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. At first it was difficult. Her pride kept whispering in her ear that this job was beneath her. But every time she saw Tund walk through the office, calm and respectful to everyone, she remembered her own shame. She remembered how she had treated him. That memory kept her humble. Tund never mentioned the incident at Crown Tower. He treated Ada the same way he treated all his employees, with professionalism and kindness. Sometimes Ada caught him watching her, but he always looked away quickly. She wanted to apologize, to explain, to beg for forgiveness. But the words never came. How could she apologize for something so terrible? One afternoon, Ada was organizing some paperwork when she heard angry voices coming from the hallway near the storage room. She put down her files and walked quietly toward the sound. As she got closer, she recognized one of the voices. It was Mr. Deli, a senior manager who handled client accounts. He was known for his bad temper. "You stupid girl," Mr. Deli was shouting. "Look at this mess. You spilled water all over my office floor. Do you have eyes? Can you not see where you are going?" Ada turned the corner and saw a young woman in a cleaning uniform standing with her head down. The girl looked no more than 20 years old. Her hands were shaking as she held her mop. Water had spilled from her bucket onto the floor. "I am sorry, sir," the girl said quietly. "It was an accident. Please let me clean it right away." "An accident?" Mr. Deli's face was red with anger. "That is what you people always say. Accident, accident. Maybe if you paid attention to your work instead of daydreaming, these accidents would not happen." He raised his hand, pointing his finger at her face. The girl flinched, stepping backward. In that moment, Ada saw herself. She saw the old Ada, the cruel Ada, the Ada who had slapped Tund. She saw how ugly that behavior really was. Without thinking, Ada stepped forward. "Mr. Deli, please. It was just a small accident." Mr. Deli turned to her, surprised. "This does not concern you, Ada. Go back to your desk." "But sir," she said she was sorry. "She will clean it up. There is no need to shout at her like this." Mr. Deli's eyes narrowed. "Are you telling me how to handle my staff issues? You are just a receptionist. Know your place." Those words, "know your place," hit Ada like a slap. She had said similar words to Tund. Now someone was saying them to her. But instead of making her back down, they made her stronger. "I am not telling you what to do, sir," Ada said firmly but respectfully. "I am just saying that everyone makes mistakes. She is young. She is learning. Kindness works better than anger." The young cleaner looked at Ada with wide, grateful eyes. Mr. Deli stared at Ada for a long moment. Then he made a disgusted sound and walked away, muttering under his breath. Foolish women defending each other. After he was gone, the girl quickly wiped the water from the floor. "Thank you, madam," she whispered. "You did not have to do that. Now Mr. Deli will be angry with you too." Ada smiled at her. "It is okay. What is your name?" "Rose, madam." "Rose, you do good work. Do not let people like him make you feel small. Every job has dignity. Remember that." Rose nodded, tears in her eyes. She finished cleaning and hurried away. Ada went back to her desk, her heart pounding. She knew she had taken a risk standing up to Mr. Deli. He could complain to Tund. She could lose her job. But somehow, defending Rose felt more important than protecting her position. What Ada did not know was that Tund had been standing in his office doorway the whole time. He had heard everything. He had seen her defend Rose. He had seen the change in her. A small smile appeared on his face as he closed his door quietly. 2 weeks later, the company faced a serious crisis. Their biggest potential investor, a man named Mr. Chin who lived in China, was coming to Lagos. He wanted to see a presentation about the company's future plans. If he liked what he saw, he would invest $5 million. If he did not, he would take his money elsewhere. The future of bright future technologies depended on this presentation. The problem was that Sarah, the marketing manager who was supposed to create the presentation, fell seriously ill. She was rushed to the hospital with a terrible fever. The presentation was due in 3 days. The team was in panic. Tund called an emergency meeting. "We need someone to create this presentation. It must be excellent. Everything depends on it. Does anyone have marketing experience?" The room was silent. Then Ada slowly raised her hand. "Sir, I do. I worked in marketing for 5 years. I can do it." Everyone turned to look at her. Some people looked doubtful. She was just the receptionist. Could she handle something this important? Tund studied her face carefully. "This is not a simple task, Ada. Mr. Chin expects professional work. Can you deliver that?" "Yes, sir. I can. Please give me a chance." Tund nodded slowly. "All right. You have 3 days. Show me what you can do." For the next 72 hours, Ada barely slept. She stayed in the office until midnight every night. She researched the investor's background. She studied the company's achievements. She analyzed market trends. She designed slides that were clear and beautiful. She wrote a script that was persuasive but honest. She worked harder than she had ever worked on any project at her old company. On the morning of the presentation, Ada's eyes were red from exhaustion, but her work was complete. She printed the presentation materials and set up the conference room perfectly. When Mr. Chin arrived with his assistants, Tund welcomed them warmly. Then he invited them to the conference room. Ada stood at the front, her heart racing. She took a deep breath and began to speak. She explained the company's vision. She showed impressive growth numbers. She described future plans with passion and clarity. She answered every question Mr. Chin asked with confidence and intelligence. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then Mr. Chin smiled and began to clap. His assistants joined him. "Very impressive," Mr. Chin said. "You have convinced me. I will invest in your company." After Mr. Chen left the building, the entire office celebrated. People cheered and congratulated Ada. Grace hugged her tightly. Even Mr. Deli, who usually looked grumpy, nodded at her with approval. Ada felt overwhelmed by the attention. She had not felt this appreciated in a very long time. That evening, as everyone was leaving, Tund approached Ada's desk. "Can you please come to my office for a moment?" Ada's heart jumped. She followed him down the hallway, her hands sweating nervously. She had been in his office only once before, months ago, to drop off some documents. Now she was going there for a private conversation. She did not know what to expect. Tund closed the door behind them and gestured to a chair. "Please sit down." Ada sat on the edge of the chair, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Tund sat across from her, behind his desk. For a moment he just looked at her without speaking. The silence felt heavy. "You did excellent work today," Tund finally said. "The presentation was professional and persuasive. You saved this company, Ada. Because of you, we have the funding we need to grow." "Thank you, sir," Ada whispered. "I just wanted to help." "I know you did. And because of your hard work and dedication these past months, I have decided to promote you. Starting next week, you will be our new marketing director. Sarah has decided to leave the company for health reasons. The position is yours if you want it." Ada's eyes filled with tears. Marketing director. It was the kind of position she had once held at her old company. But this time she had earned it through humility and genuine effort, not through her family name or connections. "Sir, I do not know what to say. Thank you. Thank you so much." Tund leaned back in his chair. "You have changed, Ada. When you first came here, I saw pain and shame in your eyes. But I also saw something else. I saw potential. I saw someone who could learn from her mistakes." Ada's tears spilled over. She could not hold them back anymore. Her whole body began to shake. "Sir, I need to tell you something. I need to apologize. I cannot hold it inside anymore." "I know what you want to say," Tund said gently. "No, please let me speak," Ada said, her voice breaking. "6 months ago I did not recognize you at first. But when I saw you in that meeting, I remembered everything. I remembered what I did to you at Crown Tower. I remembered how cruel I was. I slapped you. I insulted you. I treated you like you were nothing. And you were going through your father's test, trying to learn humility and respect for all people. And I destroyed that lesson with my pride and my cruelty." She put her face in her hands and sobbed. All the guilt she had been carrying for months poured out. "I'm so sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. You did not deserve that treatment. No one deserves that. I was a terrible person. I thought I was better than everyone else because of my family's money and my education. But I was wrong. I was so wrong." Tund stood up and walked around his desk. He pulled up a chair and sat beside her. He handed her a tissue from the box on his desk. "Ada, look at me," he said softly. She wiped her eyes and looked up at him. His face was kind, not angry. "I forgave you a long time ago," Tund said. "That day at Crown Tower was painful, yes. But it taught me something important. It showed me that my father's test was necessary. It showed me how people judge others based on their jobs and their status. Your slap hurt, but it also opened my eyes." "But how can you forgive me?" Ada asked. "What I did was unforgivable." "Everyone deserves forgiveness if they are willing to change," Tund replied. "When you applied for the receptionist job, I recognized your name immediately. I told Mrs. Obi to give you a chance. I wanted to see if you had learned anything from your own fall. I watched you these past months. I saw you work hard. I saw you treat everyone with respect. I saw you defend Rose when Mr. Deli was cruel to her. That was the moment I knew you had truly changed." "You hired me on purpose?" Ada asked, surprised. "You knew who I was?" "Yes. I hired you because I believe people can change. I hired you because I saw potential in you. And I was right. Look at you now. You are not the same proud woman who slapped me. You are humble. You are kind. You are hardworking. You have become the person you were always meant to be. Ada cried even harder, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while. When Ada finally stopped crying, Tund smiled at her. Now let us talk about your new position. There is a lot of work to do. In the weeks that followed, Ada moved into her new role as marketing director. She worked closely with Tund on various projects. They spent hours together in meetings discussing strategies and ideas. Ada discovered that Tund was not just a good businessman. He was also intelligent, funny, and deeply caring about his employees. Slowly, their professional relationship began to change into something more. They started having lunch together. They talked about their lives, their dreams, their fears. Ada told him about her family's struggles and how humbling the experience had been. Tund told her about his father's wisdom and how much he missed him. One evening they stayed late at the office working on a new project. When they finished, Tund walked Ada to her car. Ada, can I ask you something? He said. Of course. Would you like to have dinner with me this weekend? Not as colleagues but as friends? Ada smiled. Her heart felt warm. I would like that very much. That dinner led to more dinners. More conversations. More time spent together. They went to movies. They walked in parks. They visited museums. With each passing day, Ada felt herself falling in love with him. Not because he was a CEO or because he was successful, but because he was genuinely good. He was the kind of man who treated janitors and executives with equal respect. He was the kind of man who believed in second chances. 1 year later, Tund and Ada organized a charity event together. It was a fundraiser for workers' rights, helping to provide better conditions and fair wages for cleaners, security guards, and other service workers across Lagos. The event was held in a beautiful hotel. Many important people attended. At the end of the evening, Tund asked for everyone's attention. The room fell silent. He took Ada's hand and led her to the center of the stage. Many of you know Ada as our marketing director, Tund said, speaking into the microphone. But I know her as someone much more. She is someone who understands the value of humility. She is someone who has learned from her mistakes. She is someone who treats every person with dignity and respect. Ada looked at him, confused. What was he doing? Tund got down on one knee. The crowd gasped. Ada's hands flew to her mouth. Ada, we both know our story started in a painful way. But that pain taught us both important lessons. It brought us to this moment. You have made me a better person. You have shown me that change is possible. Will you marry me? He opened a small box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. Ada could not speak. Tears streamed down her face. She nodded frantically, unable to find words. Finally she managed to whisper, "Yes. Yes, I will marry you." The room exploded with applause and cheers. Tund stood up and slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he pulled her close and kissed her gently. Ada closed her eyes, feeling grateful for the journey that had brought them here. She had lost everything, her pride, her money, her status. But in losing those things she had found something far more valuable. She had found herself. She had found humility. She had found love. As they stood together on that stage, surrounded by people celebrating their engagement, Ada remembered the cleaner with the mop and bucket. She remembered the slap. She remembered her cruelty. But she also remembered his forgiveness, his kindness, his belief in her potential to change. Sometimes, Ada thought, the worst moments of our lives teach us the most important lessons. Sometimes we have to fall completely before we can learn to stand with true strength. And sometimes, the people we hurt the most become the people who save us.